Hey guys, welcome to the pod.
The Pea Pod. I'm Ladle.
I'm Peas.
And this week we have a full ladle of peas just for you.
So let's get to it. That's right. We're back. It's episode 2. You didn't think we'd make it, did you? Yeah, we did. Well, for those who are joining us now, if this is your first episode, this is the Pea Pod.
And go listen to the first one.
Yeah, go listen to the first one. This is the Ladle of Peas podcast. So we're so glad that you're here. And my name is Brennan.
My name is Justine.
But you can call us Peas or Ladle.
Or Ladle.
If you want.
You
it's
so
just
desire.
Fun persona. So this podcast, as a quick recap for those who were not here, is just tell funny stories. We're going to talk about the Bible a little bit. And we're just going to have some fun and pull you guys along with it. So,
yeah. All right.
Two things I do want to mention, though, before we start, is these guys, if you weren't here last time or if you've forgotten, these are our little mascots.
Mm-hmm.
These are Azariah, Mishael, and
this is Hananiah, this one right here.
Which are the original Hebrew names of the biblical characters, Radshak and Benny. So that's what you can call them for short if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is our socials. We have an Instagram, so you should go follow that.
Follow the Instagram, Ladle of Peas Podcast.
With no spaces.
No spaces, all one word.
All one word. Go check it out because, as you'll find out in the end, you're going to need that to go take a poll, and we want your comments, and that's how we're going to interact with you guys off of air, you know.
We want to know what you're thinking.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And then we'll also, if you're listening to this, you found some sort of medium to watch this on YouTube or, listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it's going to be. Go look for that there, and we'll have that in different spots explaining where it's going to be. So, yeah. Well, I think it's time for our first segment.
All right. Welcome to the Word. We're going to talk about Scripture for a little bit here. If you'll open up with us to Isaiah chapter 41, that is where we will be this week. So it's a pretty long section. So I don't know, should I read the whole thing or just part of it?
How about you read, so what parts do you want to cover the most? Because the parts I want to cover the most, as far as how I see it, is like verse 8 to like 13 or 14.
Okay, I'll read 8 to 14. That's where we'll start out, friends. Okay. Verse 8, Isaiah 41.
That was backwards.
Yep. And, throw...
Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead.
But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend, you whom I took from the ends of the earth and called from its farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Behold, all who are incensed against you shall be put to shame and confounded. Those who strive against you shall be as nothing and shall perish. You shall seek those who contend with you, but you shall not find them. Those who war against you shall be as nothing at all. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not. I am the one who helps you. Fear not, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I am the one who helps you, declares the Lord. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Worm.
Yep.
Worm.
Imagine being Jacob.
God called you a worm. I mean, come on.
The ultimate, would you still love me if I was a worm? The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay, well, you want to start on what you have to say?
Okay, so Isaiah 41 verses 10 through 13 specifically are a few of my favorite verses in all of Scripture. I just love them so much. And I come back to them regularly because oftentimes I sit in my room and I say, man, God's left me. I'm alone. And where is he? And I sit there and I'm like, well, here I am, And specifically verse 13, I envision a little child having their hand held by God, by their father, And like my dad used to walk me into the grocery store and he would like hold my hand and he'd like swing me, through the parking lot. And that's just exactly how I envision God is with me every single day.
That is really good.
So for I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you. And we all try to find help in places that it's not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. I mean, every single day, without fail, we'll put something above God for at least a minute. And
At least?
At least.
Yes.
Never at most. It's always more than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the one who helps us. And then he goes out and he's like, you worm.
You worm. Which is just another name. It's not. I mean, people think, okay, what's the hidden meaning behind worm? It's worm. It's
literally
like
just
maggot.
worm.
It's really just a sign of weakness. Like, it's not necessarily an insult. God's not like calling Jacob a bad word or saying you're a worm, Jacob. He's saying you're so helpless. You're so weak without me. You're so completely in you are unable to do anything outside of me. You are a weak little maggot. But in a loving way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about worms. They
just squirm around.
That's all they do. And they get crushed every day.
Or eaten.
So helpless. So sad.
But God. Okay, so I'd like to say that this was written by Isaiah, right?
No way.
Yes, by Isaiah. It was in the time during the exile in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a hard time for Israel and the Jewish people, just being in Babylon and being in a place they didn't want to be, governed by a king that they hated. And so this section, now I would say go read the whole section. Go read all of Isaiah 41.
Absolutely.
Because it all pertains to everything.
It's so good.
It's so good. I think that the general like theme of the whole passage and like the whole chapter is kind of God saying, "Come at me," because he talks about over and over again, your gods are not me. I am the ultimate God. You have false gods. See what they can do. Test them. See if they do anything.
Yeah. Specifically, verse 4: I, the Lord, the first, and with the last, I am He.
Yes, I am He. This is God saying, you have nothing against me. You can't like literally. Verse 1 says, "Let them approach. Let them speak. Let us together draw near for judgment."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, okay, see, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? What can you bring against me that's not going to be terrible? And so like verse 21 to the end is pretty much God saying, all right, see if you can do any good or do any harm, and see if you're going to be dismayed or terrified. And then at verse 24, behold, you are nothing, and your work is less than nothing. An abomination is he who chooses you. Less than nothing. Like what is less than nothing,
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, I feel like a good like structure is that God says, try me out, see what happens, see if your gods work. They won't work. I love you. I will take care of you. And then at the end, he just, he ends the argument. So, let's see. What else do we have here? So
I was going to talk about the end few verses,
okay,
18 through 20, because there's been a lot of news articles going around about this, and there was a TikTok that I showed you earlier this week, and it was about the Euphrates River.
Oh, yeah.
And some people think this is prophecy, this last few verses things. I will open rivers on the bare heights and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water. I will put in the wilderness the cedar, the acacia, the myrtle, and the olive. I will set in the desert the cypress, the plane, and the pine together, that they may see and know, may consider and understand together, that the hand of the Lord has done this, the Holy One of Israel has created it. And is it in Revelation where it talks about the sixth
angel pours out the Euphrates River, so it dries up, making way for the kings.
Yeah, and so the Euphrates River has changed over time. Shocker. That's just how
most body of waters work. And
it's now resting kind of in this place where it looks like the omega symbol.
Yeah.
Or the letter omega in Greek.
Yeah, the Greek letter omega, which is commonly used for God.
Yeah.
Right? And because he's the alpha and the omega.
And so there's a bunch of people freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, this part about like the rivers and the pool of water in Isaiah, it's like coming true in this prophecy in Revelation and like all this stuff. And it's like, okay, where's the other 5 angels?
Yeah, it's like in Revelation it's saying that this is the 6th angel doing this. I mean, a lot of people believe that we're in Revelation times, which is fine. I mean, I don't think that's an incorrect assumption to make. I mean, there's a lot of dissertation that needs to be, in that discussion alone. But if you have a 6th angel doing something, you got to look at the other 5 before it. And a lot of that stuff hasn't happened yet. So
well, and even before looking at the angels in Revelation, you got to look at what's before those 3 verses in Isaiah.
Right, yeah, exactly. You can't take things out of context. Cause
Verse 17,
Yeah,
folks.
17.
When the poor and needy seek water and there is none, and their tongue is parched with thirst, I, the Lord, will answer them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I don't think it is prophecy.
I don't think it is
I
either.
think he's talking about the poor and the needy when they're seeking water. And he's saying that in the bare heights, he will give water to them. In the midst of the valley, in the wilderness, in the desert, in the springs. And he's literally explaining further what he had already stated in verse 17. And it's so like discouraging to see people not seeking out context.
They're trying to find the most dramatic way to
Yes.
put it on the internet and get views. And I'm not saying that there's malicious people out there who are saying, I want this for my own personal gain, but
there are.
But there are. You're right. Absolutely. You can't discount that entirely. So the thing I also want to point out here is between verses 7 and 8, is in verses 8 it says, well, I guess you could even start at verse 5, actually. The coastlands have seen and are afraid. The ends of the earth tremble, and they have drawn near and come. Everyone helps his neighbor and says to his brother, "Be strong." The craftsman strengthens the goldsmith, and he smooths with the hammer him who strikes an anvil, saying to the solding, "It is good." And they strengthen it with nails so that it cannot be moved. And then it goes to 8, which is where we read, "But you, Israel, my servant."
Yeah.
There's supposed to be there's a distinction there when he's talking about the coastlands. Those are the people that decide, we don't need God. We've got these idols. We're going to strengthen ourselves. We're going to be fine. And throughout this passage, you see that they're not fine. And verse 8 is when God says, you're my servant. You're the ones I've chosen, And like the friend says, the offspring of Abraham, my friend. It just means like love. So picture he says my love. It's a very endearing term that God uses for Israel. And then it says, you are my servant. I have chosen you. And he says that twice. And then at the end in verse 14, I am the one who helps you, declares the Lord, your Redeemer, which is supposed to call back to, if you guys know, if you're big, theology buffs, Exodus chapter 6, verse 6 says, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burden of slavery to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. Did I skip a line? I think I did. Let me read it again. I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will deliver you from slavery to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm.
Yeah, there it is.
And with great acts of judgment. So this is after, this is God promising deliverance. And that is the first time that word Redeemer really pops up. And this is supposed to call back to that and say, remember, I am your Redeemer, and I've called you out of Egypt. I brought you out of that. And I just think that's really important. And then I would say the last thing I have here, other than the very end, is Cyrus. This guy. So if you look in verse 2, and right in the middle of verse 2, it says, he gives up nations before him so that he tramples kings underfoot. He makes them like dust with his sword, like driven stubble with his bow. Actually, no, you know what? Beginning of 2, it says, who stirred up one from the east, whom victory meets at every step. Yeah. He who gives up nations before him. That is in reference to Cyrus, which is King Cyrus. After the first time they get released, the Israelites from the Babylonian captivity, King Cyrus is the one that kind of writes a decree and says, God has released me from, or God has told me that we should let these people go. And so it's in Ezra chapter 1. It says, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all his people, may his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem. So this is Cyrus saying, you guys can go now. Where, God told me this and that. And if you read the rest of Cyrus' story, you read the rest of, Ezra and everything that involves him, Cyrus is not really like a Christian guy. He doesn't end up being this amazing God-following king. He just kind of uses God as a intermediate crutch. And so so this passage in Isaiah anticipates that, because it also says in verse 25 of Isaiah 41, it says, I stirred up one from the north, and he has come from the rising of the sun, and he shall call upon my name. He shall trample on rulers as mortar, and the potter treads clay. So then you're like, well, you just said Cyrus was the guy from the east. Well, he comes from everywhere. The north and the east, Babylonian captivity just kind of clinches Israel, and they're done, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is a prophecy of that. And Isaiah is like, you guys better get your act together, because this is going to happen. And it does.
Cyrus is coming.
Yeah. And so, which is just a crazy, awesome portrayal of how Cyrus is technically a very pagan guy, even though he's using God as kind of his way to get his way. It's complicated. He's a pagan thing, and this is a pagan event that's happening, and it's supposed to show you God can use, he can use, secular events for his purposes. So, bad things that happen in our country, like, all right, I'm not trying to get political here. Whether you voted for Trump or you voted for Biden, they're not like, neither of them are God honoring people, to my opinion is.
True.
And so, but people say the world's ending and God's gonna, whatever. But you have to remember that God can use whoever he wants, however he wants, because he's God. And that applies to this. Cyrus, being this king, he can use Cyrus for his purposes, even though he's a secular king. And so I would say the last verse really sums this whole thing up. Mm-hmm. It says, behold, they are all a delusion. Their works are nothing. Their metal images are empty wind. And one of the commentaries, or actually the ESV study Bible that I have, has the concluding comment is, God concludes the debate, period. He shuts it down right there. Boom.
Said it, you're done.
Behold, they are all a delusion. Their works are nothing. That's it. He says, so the whole passage, try me, see what other gods or idols you can bring against me, see what happens. Nothing happens. They're dumb, and I'm better, and you should always follow me, because I love you. Even though you're a worm without me. I can make you not a worm. Or I can help you as the worm. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a really great passage.
When I hear verse 29, all I can think about, like, their metal images are empty wind. I think of, like, Avengers, is it Infinity War, when he snaps and they all go to dust? That's what I envision, is like, boom.
Yeah. They are nothing. It's not going to matter in the end. God's got his plan. God's got his purposes, and it's going to happen no matter if you have Cyrus as your king or you have Solomon as your king. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about kings and political. It's anything. He can use whatever it is, even horrible events. He will use it for his good. So, definitely, really awesome passage to read, especially when you're having trouble with understanding. Like you said to me the other day, that Isaiah, in its entirety, the whole book of Isaiah paints the fatherhood, of God really well. And that passage of holding his hand, I will hold your right hand. Like you hear saying, oh, he sits at the righteous right hand of God. Like that, you hear that a lot, but you never hear that the Lord your God is holding your hand. And I find it very compassionate.
Verse, because I just come back to it so often. I did it in my life group last year. We did like a creative journaling thing with it. It was awesome. It's just, if you're looking for a really encouraging verse that shows that God is walking alongside you no matter where you're at, no matter who you are, if you're a worm or you're not, he is holding your right hand and he will walk with you until the end of time.
Mm-hmm. That's what Jesus says in the Great Commission is, behold, I'll be with you to the end of the age.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Trust in him.
All right.
I think that concludes our Welcome to the Word. So goodbye from the Word.
Well, not quite.
No, not
the
quite.
Word is with you.
The Word is with you always to the end of the age. Because Jesus was the Word.
Word was God. Word was with God.
Yeah. John 1:1. Okay, so side note. This is our second section. This is where we're just going to kind of talk about music for a little bit and analyze a little bit of music because we're both music majors, and I figure it's a fun way to incorporate that into this podcast. So I think, so the first section, we just have a song of the week, something that we've been listening to, something that has been either encouraging or something we really like. And I think, do you want to go first? Do you have your song?
I got it pulled up right now.
She's got it pulled up right now.
Okay, so this week, Mr. Peeves over here has been reintroducing me to country music because I despise country music from the depths of my soul. And I grew up, a little background here. I grew up listening to it because my dad, that's all he would play in the car. And
great dad.
Okay. And then when I was like 15 or 16, well, the year of 2017 is the year this song came out. And I had forgotten about it until this week when Brennan had played a song by Josh Turner for me. And I was like, oh, I'll go look through this guy's other songs because, you know, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. And then I found this song and I was like, oh, this is familiar. This song is, my dad was like, if you are gonna go date a man, he better treat you like this. And it's called One Like Mine, and it's by Josh Turner. And it basically talks about, like, when you find a girl like I have, you just know that she's the one. She's a treasure. She's a gem. And where is it? Actually, it's the first verse. The second that I met her, it was like I found a treasure, and I swore I'd never let her get away. She's what you call a keeper, and she's made me a believer. The girls like that don't come around every day.
It's a great song. I actually had never heard it. I love Josh Turner, but that's a newer album for Josh Turner. I have never listened to his newer stuff, but when she sent it to me and she's like, I know this song.
I know.
I was turned on to it. That's a pretty good song.
Yeah. It is a very good song. If you're a woman, that is how a man should treat you. Facts. My dad.
For real.
My dad was on to something there. Good song. Good memory.
Yep.
Your song. You go.
Okay, so on the track of country here, I was, I'm a country music guy. I love good country. And I think I'm going to talk about this next week. I'm going to talk about country music at some point because it needs to be addressed. But there's a very certain amount there's eras, right, of country music. And yeah. Josh Turner and this guy, Cody Johnson, is one of my favorite guys. Mm-hmm. They're very new in terms of country music. And I appreciate a lot of their stuff because they keep it super country. You know, Luke Bryan, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, like those kind of guys are very popular right now because they fit so well into the pop era. Luke Combs, I think, does a decent job keeping it country, but a lot of those guys just, they get songs off of some song bank and they re-record it for themselves, and it's just kind of just pop music with some guitar and a little bit of twang, you know? So these guys do a pretty good job of keeping it. Cody Johnson and Josh Turner. This song that I've been listening to this week is by Cody Johnson. It's called Longer Than She Did. And it's actually the opposite of your thing. This is kind of a breakup song, a bit of. It's about basically how the broken heart he's got right now is probably going to last longer than she did, you know, in this relationship. So, like, let's see. The chorus is, I got a list of songs my hurt won't let me turn back on unless I let the whiskey be the DJ. Too many country roads these good years used to drive her on, so now I keep 'em running on the highway. They say time gonna heal the pain. Every cloud runs out of rain, but I got a feeling that this broken heart of mine is gonna stay with me longer than she did. So it's not quite as elegant speaking as last week's song that I had, with all the awesome lyrics, but it's a country song. And his voice, Cody Johnson's voice, is just unreal. I mean, his live recordings are great. His studio recordings are great. Josh Turner's very similar too, because Josh Turner's got an insane range.
He does.
And that's kind of his shtick. So Cody is also a really good Christian, really great guy. Listen to the whole album in general. That this is his newer 2021 album. So I love that song,
He's a fan girl.
I'm a fan man. Yeah, so I love that song. It's really great. And yeah, I guess I'll talk about country music next week because I could go off on it for a long time.
Yeah. All right. Now getting into the meat and potatoes.
Yes. So then after we do our little songs, we do kind of analyze something musical. And this week, we want to talk about congregational keys.
Keys that you sing in with the congregation.
Yes, like worship and that kind of thing.
When somebody is leading worship, here's a problem I find often.
I find this problem often as well.
Is I'll be singing and then they go way too high or way too low. And I'm like, well, it's out of my range now. So then I try to find a harmony. And then sometimes I don't know the song, so I can't find the harmony. And then I'm like, well, now I'm here and I'm switching between my head voice and my chest voice every 2 seconds. And it's terrible.
It is terrible. And it's
and I know that you're supposed to, make a joyful noise to the Lord, and it doesn't really matter how you sound.
It doesn't really matter.
But at the same time,
it's distracting sometimes when you're like, okay, I'm trying to, especially even as music people. Now, this is going to be an interesting conversation because we're both music people.
Yes.
And singers, and it's hard to want to sing it well and not, be distracted by the difficulty or, the struggle. And so anyway, I did some research on this. I watched 2 different videos on YouTube by Worship Tutorials, they're a great channel. Check them out.
He always does his homework.
Yep. And then I also watched, if you guys know Shane and Shane, we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
Shane B, the one who does more of the publicity stuff. He also has a similar podcast where people text in questions or email or whatever, and he answers them. And so the question for that video was, how do you pick a congregational key? Now, to the best of my ability, I'm going to summarize all this stuff I have here because it's a lot. So Worship Tutorials, it's Brian and what's the other guy? Brian's the normal guy who's on there. Fuller is his name. He's a worship leader. And they asked this question, what should we pick for congregational keys? And the first thing, I think they got it spot on for this, is to ask the question, why is it in this key? So it depends on, is it on guitar? Is it on piano? And why is it in? Because certain songs you can play on guitar that are written on guitar, but the voicings aren't great for piano, or vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you ask the question, why is it in this key? Evaluate the song, figure that out, and keep in mind octave jumps. So if you find a key and there are octave jumps, you want to keep those things in mind, because if you make that key too high, when it goes up, the bottom register might be nice, but the upper register might not be nice when they have to jump for that. There's this term called tessitura, which means it's the range in between the highest note and the lowest note. And I think they got it spot on when they were talking about pick a key for a song that the tessitura is in a good range. Don't worry about the higher notes or the lower notes, the outliers. Focus on where the most of the melody is going to be, the meat of the song. And then also keep in mind who's going to be singing it. And now this is kind of where they branch off into their own thing that I don't 100% agree with. And that's because when you have to understand who's going to be singing it and whether or not this should be for the singer or the congregation, that's where my kind of opinion split, because they say, okay, if it's going to be a lady singer, and it's a Chris Tomlin song, you're going to want to drop it like a fourth, and if it's a male singer, you're going to want to drop it a fifth or whatever it is. If it, it's higher, those Chris Tomlin songs, Phil Wickham songs are very high.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Something that they both talk about is higher volume, higher key can mean higher energy. When you're singing way down low, you can have those boisterous guys who are, old men just really singing it out. But for the most part, a higher energy, higher song. That's why Shane and Shane's so popular, is because Shane B has such a higher register voice, and he can just belt it really, really well.
Yeah.
And it brings energy and it brings force, and it can be very empowering for the worship. And so that's something to consider as far as who's going to be singing it. But then you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just know that it's hard for me because I am an alto through and through, and I don't sing very high very often. And in my voice lessons right now, I'm actually working on my head voice range because I'm not as confident in it. And so when I'm singing with worship and congregational things, I'm not warmed up. I'm not, I'm just going in.
It's
and
not
so I want to sing in my comfortable low range, But congregational keys are never in that like lower alto range because most women are not an alto and most men can sing like in a more tenor range, which matches with the soprano kind of area, mezzo soprano. And so it makes it really hard for people like me that are kind of the in-betweeners. And so I'm like, well, this isn't a congregational key. I can't sing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's wrong. And I don't want to say that it's wrong, but it's wrong. And so that's where I get a little torn because when I'm leading worship, I want it to be comfortable for me to sing on stage. Because the more confident I am, the more confident the congregation will be.
Which is their point when they talk about singer being more important.
The other point, though, is that it's more important for the congregation to be comfortable in it. And if the singer's a little uncomfortable, it's not about the singer.
Which is
it's about the Lord.
Yes, you're right. So Worship Tutorial says it's about the singer and that music is very much a science and a math thing. So you can't cut out, you can't change the keys from A to A flat and expect all the guitarists to be like, drop D tuning, whatever it is I need to do. You've got to think about your instrumentalists is what they're saying. You got to think about your vocalists. You have to remember that those high parts are good high energy parts. So if you change the keys, you can end up cutting those out, which is not great. So just know your team, know yourself, have good communication for those keys. That's a lot of what they were saying. And then transitions, which I will talk about when I get to the Shane B part, is also important. So don't go from A to A flat, like I said. And then also don't do a song in D flat and then another song in D, because sometimes your instrumentalists are going to need to tune a certain way if you're going to do the whole set in D flat or around that key and then have to go up again. It's complicated. Do something that's like D to A, which is a much more smoother transition than like B flat to D flat or whatever, So their thing is it's an overrated topic. That was their opinion. It's an overrated topic. No, and then this is really funny. The last thing they said was nobody has ever complained about the normal congregational people who sing has never complained about the key. They've complained about the noise, they've complained about the drums, but they've never complained that this is a high key for me and I don't think we should be singing it this way. And so like they had that opinion. But the very first thing that Shane says in the next video that I watched was, I get a lot of comment. It was actually a comment about how he got a question from his congregational member who was a normal congregational member. This is too high for me to sing. And so he was asking Shane, how should we approach this? So Worship Tutorial's opinion is it's about the vocalist and you should make them as comfortable as possible, and that the congregation really doesn't matter because they're all just going to be worshiping the Lord. They're all just going to be singing in whatever key they want and it's not going to sound great, which I thought was a very interesting disposition. Shane's disposition is a lot cooler. It's so much more worship leading centered than I think. And where his perspective basically is congregation led. You have to remember that the congregation they're coming to worship and you want to kind of make them comfortable. And so what he does is like he'll pick a key that's good, a good middle range, and then he'll sing it in a low key. He'll sing it in a lower octave so that the men have somewhere to sit. That's the word he used, somewhere to sit. But then he'll jump back up to, because he's more comfortable in the higher ranges. And that's harder for guys sometimes in that like the alto soprano range. And so he'll do a chorus so that he'll always do a low chorus so that the men have somewhere to sit, and then he'll go back up, and so you can have these people doing lower, higher, and then also have like the people who are doing harmonies in there. But a lot of it is it's experimenting and learning what your congregation, how they work and how they operate in terms of the worship styles.
And they'll be more into it, and you'll be able to hear it audibly on a stage that they're like singing back. Right. And for me, that's like the ultimate reassurance of like, whew, okay, I'm okay. They're, worshiping God, and that's what I want. I want for them to feel close to the Lord right now, and that is happening. But when it's like kind of silent and I'm the only one in the room that's like yeah, I got this.
Mhm.
And I don't hear anybody else singing back, I'm like, I've failed my mission. I've been sent out to lead this set in worship, and I've failed because I picked a good song maybe, and people might know all the words to the song, but if they can't sing it, there's no point.
Exactly. And so keep it 65 and up. They're not going to be able to sing very high.
Right.
So Shane was like, when I go to certain congregations like that or I perform somewhere, I'm having that in mind and I don't go super high and I keep it in lower, and so he just says, look at your folks and see what will bless them the most, which is so much more, I feel like, a better way to look at it than, okay, he also says this, it's not my time to enjoy my own voice. It's my time to share God and teach and admonish. And so I like to think of, in my selfish heart, a lot of times if I'm leading worship at my own church, I think about it as, okay, I'm going to sing so good and God's going to love me for how well I'm singing, which, yeah, he'll be proud, but it's not about me. And I say that every time I get on that stage, to lead worship, as I say, this is not about us. It's about God. And so making it kind of comfortable for them and making sure that they know that it's a servitude. When you're a worship leader, you need to be a servant leader and sacrificing your own desires for them and for their ability to worship God,
Yeah.
So, and the last thing he says, which I just think is so cool, is that he always tries to keep thinking worship sets as 17 to 20-minute songs. And that means that it's all one big thing. You don't stop in the middle, change your capo, there's a silent moment. There can be that for a small little bit of transition, but he keeps it flowing, and it's a constant time of prayer and of worship, and it keeps them engaged, because it's a very distracting world. Like I was saying to you earlier, some people come into church and they just finished yelling at their kids, and they had a rough morning, and they couldn't get this thing done, and they're stressed about work tomorrow, and they don't actually enter into the presence of God until the third or fourth song in, and then they're really worshiping. And so when you keep them engaged, when you're keeping the as a constant time of prayer and worship, they can enter into that and don't feel like they've just have to find a space where they can step into the presence. If you keep it there all the time, they will gradually get there. And it's just another evidence of servitude for the congregation. So you always want to be working towards the flow and a continuous time of prayer. And just knowing that this is a time to pastor them, not just in music, but in the Bible, and reading them scriptures, and it's very personal. This is your flock. Like the pastor is the shepherd for the flock, and Jesus being the ultimate shepherd, but the worship leader is part of that team. Yeah. And when it comes to worship, you are in charge of that. And so I think it's about the congregation, and it's not about the vocalist. And that's my opinion. I think pick songs. Sometimes it's good to sacrifice certain singability if you want to tag on, have two songs in D and tag on the chorus of this to this other song and kind of do a bit of a mashup, a melody. Or I think that's really a good thing to do.
When people do that.
Yeah, because it keeps you engaged.
Done well.
When it's done well, it keeps you engaged. That's the word I just keep using because it's a very distracted age right now. And so yeah, that's the bulk of what I have to say. I don't think it's important to make sure your singers are good. The communication is still smart, and you need to make sure that it's not disorganized, but keep in mind a servant heart and a shepherding kind of, idea in your mind. So anything else to add?
I don't have anything else to say on the matter. You kind of nailed that right on the head.
I don't know. I feel like I just kind of go off on those types of things, and I don't want to overstep on your opinions. So. Oh
no, I stated my opinions.
Okay. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I'm glad you did. So. Okay. Well, next segment. I think it is time for the next segment.
All right. Let's get into some projectile commenting. I've been thinking about that this whole time. I'm like, I'm gonna say projectile commenting and then go.
It's not vomiting, by the way. It is commenting.
Commenting.
Yes.
But this week we're talking about pet peeves.
Yes, some
personal pet peeves.
Petty peeves. Nope.
Nope.
Pet peeves.
Oh my God. There's a lot of kind of bathroom talk on this list, so just prepare yourself.
Yes. There's no potty language, but
potty language, but it is a lot about the bathroom.
There is a lot about There's a lot about the bathroom.
There's a
down
lot
here.
of.
Let's
pet
just
peeves.
start with that. So, you want to go first? Talk about one.
Okay, let me address the women of Houghton for a moment, a brief moment.
Wait, Justine, what is Houghton?
Oh, Houghton Hall is the female dormitory at the Moody Bible Institute,
Which is where we are.
which is where I live. I live on Houghton 6 West, so please don't come find me after this. And don't hunt me down. But I'll be in the bathroom, right? Going to take a shower. Okay? And there's somebody playing music in the shower. All dandy, good and well. And they're singing. All dandy, good and well. I don't mind. And then somebody else walks in to take their shower. And they put on their own music.
And they sing.
And they sing. And now there's 2 different, like, it'll be like one person singing pop and one person singing worship, one person singing country, and there's 4 billion different songs going on. And how can you think? How can you function like that?
You know, my dad says the very same thing when we are, like, my sister will play something. Oh, I'm sorry, Lana. Lana will play something at the kitchen table, or I'll be watching something on my phone, and she'll just start playing music, and my dad walks in the room and goes, Why are we competing music right now? This is so disorienting. And I don't understand it either.
I hate it. And so there was one time I remember I'm in the shower and then I hear somebody singing next to me. Beautiful. Amazing. You do that. You go, girl. And then all of a sudden somebody else walks in, da-di-da-di-da, starts playing their music, and it's on either side of me. And I just wanted to run. I wanted to run away, and I wanted to chop my own ears off. It was horrible. It was so terrible. Don't do that, please. If somebody else is playing music, listen to their music until they're done. Okay? Suck it up for 5 minutes and just listen to their music, because that's what I do every time I go. Okay?
I kind of have that. I have that disposition as well, because I walk in there and I have my speaker in my hand. I walk in there and then I hear music and I'm like, I can't play music over that. The problem is there's one guy. There's one guy on the floor sometimes that plays the music so loud that not only the whole bathroom can hear it, the whole floor hears it.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's overpowering. And it's great. It's worship
speaker.
music. It's awesome. I love it, but not when it's competing like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so on the topic of showers, not turning them all the way off. I live on Culberson 3, which will not be Colby 3 pretty soon. We have a renovation coming up.
Yeah, and then it'll be a female floor.
Well, 3 will be a female floor. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be female floors. And then 7 will be the beginning of the
R.I.P. the Croesus.
Which is weird. Well, never mind. So anyway, yeah, the Croesus is going away.
Sad.
I'm so glad. Don't shake your head. So sometimes I go to shower and, like, the drain, or not the drains, the knobs, the faucets are a little janky sometimes. So, like, if you shut it off, it won't all the way go off. But there are just some times when you get in a shower and the water is it's running. It's not dripping, it's running, and it's going. And so I go to the bathroom sometimes, and I go to the I go into the bathroom.
You go to the bathroom to use the bathroom.
I go to the bathroom, use the bathroom, and I can just hear the.
That happens to me, and I go and turn it off.
I do too.
I have to.
Somebody in our Slack
like an obligation.
Somebody in our Slack group chat or our group me or somebody said something about it, and I was so happy. They're like, turn the showers off. So all you have to do, watch, ready? So you take your hand, you grab the handle, and you just push it up, and you just tighten it just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like you're cranking on a lug nut. You just
here's the opposite
turn it
side
off
of that.
all the way.
Here's the opposite side of that. Sometimes people turn the showers off and they crank it so much to the other side that I can't get it turned back on.
Yeah, okay. You're right. Don't do that. Just turn it off. Like I understand, there's a resistance. You just turn it till there's a resistance, but that's not off all the way.
Right.
Because those are old showers. It's not off all the way. So sometimes the tunk that you hear is just the water pump shutting off. There's still going to be water coming down out of it. And never mind. I'm going to get too heated about this.
I don't know if this happens in Colby, but in Houghton, if somebody flushes the toilet, it burns you.
Do you know why?
No.
I will tell you why. Thank you, Dad. There are 2 pipes for cold and hot.
Uh-huh.
The way that the building was set up is that every time you flush they're on the same pipes, right? When you flush the toilet uses cold water. So when you flush the toilet, it prioritizes the cold water from that pipe to flush the toilet, and all you get is the hot side.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So when you like our dials are do you have the single dial ones or do you have two?
No. Well, we have one.
You have one.
Single
So the more that you crank that towards the hot, the more that it'll turn the hot down and turn the cold up. So it's
Right.
like as you turn that, it adjusts itself.
right.
When you flush the toilet, it shuts the cold all the way off. So all you get is the boiling hot water
Burning
that you have.
hot
Right.
water.
And I've been able to anticipate that change when I'm in the shower.
I
If
have
somebody
too now.
above me flushes the toilet and I don't hear it, all of a sudden I can hear the pressure change just a second and go shh, and you're like, oh, here it comes, and you just get out of the way, and then you feel it get a little bit warm. It's a science, okay?
It's terrible. And here's why. There's been a time where I've been in the shower and like one girl after another
Flush.
come in the bathroom, and I'm like, please, as if you don't know that this is burning me alive. Stop
Let's cook
flushing the
Justine.
toilet. For the love of all that is good, please stop flushing the toilet when I'm in the shower. Please. Please. That's all I
It's a cry for help. On flushing. I don't know if this happens in the girls. I don't think it does because they're girls. The guys don't flush urinals. Flush the urinals. Please.
It doesn't happen in the girls' dorm.
I don't
have urinals.
understand. Like, I understand there's some guys who don't wash their hands. Okay? I understand that. Because you can hear them come in, you can hear them go out.
Right.
You don't hear the sink turn on.
Yep.
The urinals, just flush. Because I don't want to get in there and be like, oh, look it, somebody was here. I don't need to know your presence was there before. I know that there was...
Marking your territory.
Yes, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that, okay? Ugh. Flush the toilets. Turn the shower all the way off. Be courteous to the people who are in the shower when you're flushing the toilet. My goodness. Okay.
Okay,
What
last-
else?
let's
The other bathroom one.
Yeah.
The cleaning. No,
Oh,
shower shoes. The
That's where
shower
I was
shoes.
going. Wear shower shoes. If you are hearing this and you do not wear them, you need to.
Not because it's gross, but because we're concerned for your safety.
Please wear shower shoes. I know plenty of men that do not wear shower shoes. And I hate that.
She just said she didn't wear shower shoes.
No. Okay,
Our producer Lisa doesn't wear shower shoes.
this is unfortunate. Wear your shower shoes. Well, unless you have like your own
Like,
place.
yeah. Okay, yeah,
Here-
no. Hear me.
here's-
You're in your own house. You're in your own whatever it is.
Then I
You
hope your
can-
shower
you
is
can-
clean enough
You
that
can
you
just
don't need
wear
to wear
bare
shower
feet.
shoes.
You don't have to wear anything. But when you are in the Moody Bible Institute, you are in a public
Community showers.
community shower. Wear something on your feet,
Please.
please. You don't know what goes on in there, man.
Ask custodial.
Ask
They'll give you
custodial.
plenty of reasons to wear shower shoes.
They'll
They'll give you horror stories.
all right, let me
Okay.
just
No.
say it. You ready?
No.
No, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going
Okay.
to talk about something else. Guys pee in the shower, okay?
True.
And that doesn't always get washed off very well.
Yeah.
The point is you get fungus.
You
You get athlete's foot.
didn't need to say that.
You get sick. You get ill.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you.
gross.
Sick and ill are better than the other.
Wear shower shoes.
Yeah, for real.
All right, you want to talk about the bathroom cleaning one or you want to just move on?
I don't know why you put bathroom cleaning
You
on
said that's what you want to talk about. Like bathroom cleaning, like keeping the bathroom clean. I assume is what you were going for.
there. Oh, I have no idea what I meant by that.
It was late.
Oops.
Okay, well, keep the bathroom clean, I guess.
Abbreviations.
Abbreviations.
He
Now-
is an avid hater of abbreviations.
I'm an avid hater of abbreviations. Let me tell you why. Ready? God created language, which means you can use it, all of it. Not now. When you had the old flip phones and you had to text using the 3-touch, that was different because sending the message hello or hey, this was really funny, I'll see you tomorrow, took you ages because you had to click, space, click, space, click, space, click, space, click. And now we have keyboards, all right? We have things that will do it for you. So type the word, not LOL,
I say LOL.
Brian Phoebus, not LOL, not you, not LOL,
CSMUMB.
not
Chuckled slightly, maybe under my breath.
mumbled under my breath.
Mumbled.
Chuckled slightly.
Mostly
mumbled,
under my breath.
Mostly under my breath. That's what it was. Don't use abbreviations. Just type ha ha ha. I don't care if it sounds dry. I know that you found it funny. Use the laugh emoji. A lot of people don't like the laugh emoji.
Use the skull emoji. It's funnier.
Skull emoji is a very this generation thing. If you are a little older and you don't want to use abbreviations and you don't want to use emojis, just say ha ha ha. I don't care. I just want to see emotion. LOL flatly means you didn't find it funny.
Lots of love.
And it doesn't mean lots of love either. And I don't mean just LOL, but just all the abbreviations. Like, okay, I guess for real. I use for real a lot now.
Yeah,
because you wrote me into that. And it's kind of funny. So FR just means for real. But just
for real.
Maybe I just have something against LOL. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe I just don't like
He definitely
LOL.
does.
Because it was a meme for a long time. And then I realized people actually use that unironically. And I don't like it.
Okay, tell me why driving over the speed limit is on this list.
Okay.
Oh, boy. I ask because I drive over the speed limit very often. Every time I drive.
1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme or to the governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil.
So,
obey the law.
Do you drive like an old man then?
Nope, I drive like a Christian.
God.
I'm kidding. Here's the real thing. I had this conviction over the summer. Driving the speed limit means you are like obeying. Like 55 is slow for people. Okay, I understand that. When you're going down the East Beltline, if you live in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, it's slow. It's sometimes, and I'll admit sometimes I'll go 60, sometimes. But for the most part, I try to keep it as like, I just set my, like not only are you saving gas mileage by going the speed limit, 45 miles an hour, 55, 60, 70, but the speed limit is like, people have just disregarded the fact that it's a limit. It's not, it's like people joke, oh, it's just a minimum. No, it's a limit. That's as fast as the law is allowing you to go.
Here's the thing though. Did you know that they made speed limits with like, when the speed limit says it's 55, it's because they know people are going to speed, so they expect them to go like 60.
You're right. They expect you to go 60. But the law is 55 is the fastest you can go on that road. And when you go above that, you are breaking the law. You are not following every human institution.
Okay.
For the Lord's sake.
So then my entire life has been...
sinful.
So is racing sinful?
No, because racing is...
within
the, I mean, what kind of racing are we talking about here?
Street racing.
Yeah, street racing's illegal.
How about actual racing?
That's not illegal because NASCAR is within the confines of a track. There's no speed limits on a track. There actually is a minimum on a track. If you can't go, if you can't meet the minimum speed, they kick you out because you're just a nuisance at that point.
Yeah, go faster. Gosh.
Anyway. I'm not really that serious about it. If you want to go over the speed limit, that's fine. My preference is I just prefer to obey the law.
Dang.
It's a hot take. I know. People are going to be a little upset with that.
I speed, guys.
Just think about it in terms of it's a ministry. People see you going slow. They flip you off. You wave them and say, God loves you. Okay?
They give you the good old California wave.
Yeah, the California wave. The Dirty Larry.
That's what my driving instructor called it, the California wave.
Really?
Yeah, we'd get it a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you were going the speed limit?
We don't talk about driver's ed. Dean Goodacre, if you're out there, thank you for teaching me how to drive. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say about that. It was the most chaotic driving class of my whole life.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, Are we
moving on?
Are we moving on?
I think we're moving on.
Okay.
I think I've upset enough people. Okay.
Why don't you go first this time?
Okay. What? Oh, okay. So our next segment is called Going Alone. And this segment is just, we have our own little things. So I'm going to talk about car parts now. And she's going to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, let's just explain this now. You can just explain it.
Oh,
explain your part of the...
Okay. So I'm going to tell a story, and you guys, I'm going to put a poll out when this episode airs. And
where's the poll going to be?
The poll will be on our Instagram. Instagram. Ladle of Peace podcast.
No spaces.
No spaces, all one word. And you guys will be deciding whether I just told you a true story or a false story about my life.
If I've never heard this story before, well, no, maybe I won't.
Brennan can ask me questions.
I'm gonna ask questions.
Clarifying questions.
And I will
to an extent.
I will give my own opinion in my head, and we'll talk about it next week. But next week, when we get to the segment, I will reveal
whether it was true or false.
Yes.
And if, it's just for fun. Just a little fun thing. Give you guys a brain break from life.
Mm-hmm.
Say, is Justine telling me a real story about her life? Because I've got some crazy ones.
She does. She's got a crazy life. She did not grow up in the church home. Did not grow up in the faith.
Nope.
Particularly. So.
Yep. It's
been a
crazy. Pretty chaotic lifetime.
Still is sometimes.
Jesus has delivered me from that.
He's awesome. Jesus.
Praise God.
Jesus is sick.
Actually. Okay.
Okay, so that's her part, though. So my part is going to be talk about car part. Now, last week we had to rush it a little bit because we had people after us using this room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry for that if it got confusing.
Apologies
I
for
forgot my piston. I have a little piston that I use as my my prop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also was going to do pictures last week to show you guys, but I didn't get around to those. So I will be sending some pictures into our editors and stuff and see if we can get some pictures up for this segment. And I'm just explaining it to her, and the goal is to get her to be able to understand what I'm saying. So last week we talked about the piston. You remember?
Yes.
It's the thing that goes up and down, right? And then we also...
Like the thing from Wipeout.
Right, from Wipeout, yes. We also briefly discussed the crankshaft. Now, I want to just reiterate those things. Crankshaft is just the base thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this pen. And by the way, if you want to watch this on YouTube, this is the best way to understand this. Think about a pen, and it rotates like this. Okay?
Yeah.
Like it's rolling on a desk. Think of a pen rolling on a desk. That's how it rotates. But it's got... The middle sections are made of alternating, like... how do you heights? Yeah, the middle of it it's
like a squiggly line, like a snake.
Yes, it's like a squiggly snake.
Like if you ever played Google Snake, it's like you went back and forth.
Snake.io did not originate on Google.
Okay. Google Snake.
No, you're right. You're right. And so basically, it's just like if you were to attach something to one part and to the other part, one would be higher,
like
right?
A bicycle.
Right. Yeah, like a bicycle. Yes,
pedals.
like the pedal bicycle. Yes, the pedals on a bicycle, how they're uneven, that's how the middle of the crankshaft is.
Mm-hmm.
And so as that spins, you have the pistons that are attached to that, and that spins, right? And as that spins, it pushes the pistons up and down inside the cylinder.
Yes.
Right. So we've got that. So when you press the gas pedal, that thing spins faster, and the pistons go up and down inside the thing faster. I guess the next thing to talk about.
What are the pistons pumping? What are they doing?
Well, you want to jump into that? Let's do it.
Oh.
So
did I just open
what happens is that you have the next segment we can talk about is the block. It's really the head. It's the engine.
Called the block.
The engine block. Yes. It's the giant thing of steel metal that surrounds the whole thing.
They couldn't come up with a better name. They said, "Yep, it's a block."
It's just basically we're
mechanics.
If we think about so let's put up these pictures here for for sake. We're gonna have the crankshaft picture at some point right now, and that's what the crankshaft looks like.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then the pistons, and then there's a cross section that I think I'll find of the pistons inside the block, and you'll see how it goes up and down.
Yeah.
Now you've seen the like with the I showed you that cross section picture, right, of the pistons inside the block. I'll find it. I'll show you later. So what they're pumping, though, as you asked, is that, and we'll get into this again next week as we progress through this. Gas gets sprayed like a squirt bottle. It gets sprayed into the top of that as the piston goes down, and then when it comes back up, this is a simplified version. As the piston comes back up, there's a little sparky thing that ignites that gas, and it explodes.
Whoa!
As it's coming up, it explodes.
So my
and
car's
it forces,
exploding every time?
Your car explodes a lot.
Whoa.
Like, a lot.
Huh, I didn't know that's what gas did.
Yes. So when you press the gas pedal, it squirts more gas into the... So, like, the piston goes down, it squirts gas. There's a whole 4-cycle versus 2-cycle thing. So, like, and then there's valves also. Because,
I'm learning so much.
You are learning so much. You know at the back of the car, the exhaust pipe, how there's smoke and stuff comes out of that?
Yeah.
That is the result of the explosions happening inside the engine. It comes out of that. So as you have two valves, one valve that squirts the gas in and one valve that gets the exhaust out. So as the piston goes up, gas gets squirted, little electric thingy, which I'll bring in next week, the spark plug, ignites the gas, it explodes, and the stuff that's like the smoke from that explosion goes out the other valves into the exhaust. So, crankshaft, piston, goes inside the block, and then you have the valves and the spark plug. Do you understand that?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
You ready to hear it?
Yes, I'm ready to hear it.
Okay. So there's a crankshaft. And it's kind of shaped like a snake.
Yep.
Or the thing from Wipeout. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this little like thing and you have to go through it. Anyway, maybe we'll put a picture of that on there.
Yes, if we can find one of the Wipeout thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is turning, pistons going up and down in the little tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the block that
Surrounds it. It's just what encases it.
encapsulates it. And then the spark plugs light the gas on fire.
Yes.
Like,
But it comes from the top.
oh, yeah.
So the pistons are going
that.
up and down like this, and
Yep.
the spark.
I knew that.
Yep.
And then that makes your car go vroom and shoots out the exhaust.
Here's the cross section of it.
And that is not how I envisioned it.
Well, that's what it looks like. You have the pistons here, and then
Yep.
the crankshaft there, and then
And it goes.
yeah. So as this is spinning, these go up and down, and then the spark plugs and the valves are all up there.
Wow.
And I'll show this pic. I'll at the very least, if we never get any other pictures up, I will show this picture for you guys because this helps a lot.
That's crazy. Cars
Yeah.
are so complex.
They're so awesome. All right, let's get to your stories. I don't want to run out of time again.
All right. When I was but 11 years old, my family was taking a trip
A wee lad.
back from my grandparents' house. And we were in our Chevy Suburban. I loved that vehicle.
Blum, 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 blum.
It was really old though.
Blum.
It was gray, I think. We had two Suburbans at one point in time, so I'm trying to remember which one it was. Gray Suburban, down the freeway we're driving. And then all of a sudden, it's the middle of the night, by the way. It's like midnight, 11 p.m., midnight-ish. And my mom's driving, and all of a sudden, all the lights in our car go out. And I mean all of them. The speedometer, the whole dash, dark. The dials go down all the
And
way.
guess what? Someday you'll know why.
My mom freaking out. It's like, I think it's winter time at this
And
point.
she's the one driving.
And she's the one driving.
Okay.
And my dad's like, you just got to calm down
And keep driving.
and keep driving. Because we're on the freeway. We're going like 70 miles an hour.
Did the headlights
crazy.
go out?
Yeah, everything.
Oh,
It's
what?
out.
Headlights?
Headlights, taillights, the whole shebang, gone. She can still go and she can still brake. That's it. That's all we got. We can, and the power steering was like, nope, got nothing. All she can do is go forward or stop. And so I don't actually know what happened to the car. I really don't. And so we are behind this truck, and trucks in Michigan have to go 65 on the freeway instead of
minimum.
70.
Well, no, maximum.
Yeah, maximum.
That's the limit.
So she gets behind a truck and we're going, and then we decide when we get to a spot with more lampposts to pull off to the side of the road. And so we're pulled off to the side of the road, and a policeman comes. He's talking to my dad because my dad used to be a policeman himself. He's freshly retired. And this guy's chatting with my dad. It's been like probably 2 hours of sitting on the side of this road. It felt like forever. It felt so long. And it's cold. And so we get some blankets out of the back, and I'm like crying. No. Yeah, I was crying, actually. Me and my sister Jessica, I think we're both crying in the back seat because I was like, we're going to get hit by another car. We're all going to die. And I'm cold. And I'm like, why can't we get out of this stinking car, dude? And my mom's like, it's okay. You just got to hold on, and we're going to be okay.
It's a very encouraging mother.
Yeah, she's putting on a happy face for the kids right now because I'm terrified. And then the policeman comes knocking on the window, and he's like, hey, there's a hotel up around the corner. Do you want us to take you there? And my mom's like, yeah, that'd be great. So we go to this hotel in Grand Rapids, And it's called the Hyatt. And the Hyatt is super fancy. Like, very bougie, high-end hotel. And my mom's like, well, I can't afford a room in this place. And so we're sitting in the lobby. And this woman at the desk is like, oh, I can get you a room, but there's no rooms. So I can't get you a room. But what I could do is get you a room for one person and put 4 beds in there. We were like, what? This is so whack. And so my mom's like, no, it's okay. We'll just stay in the lobby, I guess. And my dad's still like out with the mechanic people doing whatever the heck they're doing.
I wish you would have found out. I want to know what it was.
I don't know. Ask my dad someday. But we were in the lobby, and the Hyatt is so fancy. It has this little, like, it's kind of, it's like a snack bar, but for sweets. And so there was cupcakes and cake and all this stuff that you could buy. And I'm like, man, I want that red velvet cupcake. It was all that was on my mind since we walked in that hotel door. And so I'm looking at it, and the lady at the counter is like, hey, do you want this? And I'm like, yeah, but, low on my price range. I'm like 9 years old. I got no money. And she's like, well.
Sounds like it came full circle.
Yeah. She's like, well, what if I just give it to you? And I was like, I mean, if you want to. And so this nice lady at the desk gives me this red velvet cupcake, and it was incredible. I remember it to this day. It was the best cupcake I've ever had in my life. So good.
Superlative. And
my sister is like, what the heck? Where's my cupcake? And starts to get upset. And so she's mad. And my mom's like, well, I don't have money with me because it's the wallet's in the car and da 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 da. And so the lady's like, well, I can only give you one. I can't give you 2. I'm so sorry. And I was like rubbing it in Jessica's face. I was like,
wow,
loser! I got a cupcake and you didn't. Wow. Oh yeah.
Wow.
And so we spent the rest of the night in that hotel lobby. And I slept on a couch in the hotel lobby there. And sometimes I pass it and I think about that. And then our friend Steve Kent came and picked us up and drove us home.
Which is the name of my boss.
Yeah. Different guys, though.
Different guy. My boss back at home at Tender Lawn Care.
Yeah. Steve Kent. Yeah.
Different
anyway.
Guy.
I think he's my godfather. I'm pretty sure. He's either my godfather or my sister's godfather, and I can never remember which. So, anyway, shout out to Steve Kent.
Wow.
That's my story for the week. Anyway, it's not a super exciting one.
No, but it was still crazy.
It still was. Well, I still don't know what happened to that car. Oh, and then we had to get rid of it afterwards. I went to the junkyard, got crushed.
All the lights.
Yeah.
And the speedometer. So all the, it's like the needles, speedometer, everything just goes done. The headlights go out, but the car is still driving. Yep. The brakes still work. Yep.
Brakes and gas still worked. That's all. That's all I got. It was scary. My mom and my dad were both freaking out in the front seat, and I was just like, you know what? This is sick.
Wow. Well, so whatever you guys think is the answer as to whether or not that is a true or false
friends.
Story. You let us know in the whatever the poll or
on Instagram.
It might be. I'm not sure what form it's going to be yet because I want the poll to last longer than like 24 hours. We'll see. We'll put it on the gram and you guys go check it out. If you don't have Instagram, find someone that does. Yeah. So there's that. 2 things actually. One thing we forgot to talk about. In side note, next week we're going to talk about Cody Fry. We're going to talk about Symphony Sessions, and that is one of his latest albums.
Go listen.
Specifically, we're going to talk about Caves and Underground by Cody Fry.
Yeah, go listen to it.
So go listen to it to prepare yourself for this because this is an incredible song.
Fantastic.
Yes. So do that, and then the other thing is my dad's birthday's tomorrow. So
happy birthday.
You're going to hear this quite later than your birthday, I think. Yeah. Almost a week after. But I just want you to know that I know and I'm remembering happy birthday. I love you very much. You're a great father.
Last thing. Last week's story that I told was in fact true.
Oh, right. Yeah, so last week
The
she
three multiple stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All three were true. I tormented my sister quite often growing up. You can ask her about it sometime.
go listen to the episode if you don't know what she's talking about.
I
'Cause that will give you-
also ate a bacon strip, so
Which is a dog food, by the way.
not my finest
Yeah,
moment.
that'll give you a glimpse into what her life is like so that you can know whether or
What's
not
to
this
come.
is true. Yes. So do that on the poll. We got socials. Listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other mediums that we tell you. We'll get it out as many places as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so thank you guys so much for coming along on this adventure. We're so glad that you are here. Come back
Yeah.
next week.
Next week for a very full, heaping, healthy ladle of peas. See ya.
See ya.